Welcome to the studio. Recently I've painted a few beginner-friendly modules for our tree course. Let me share one of those with you now. And in this video, we're going to be painting a willow tree. Now, willow trees are found everywhere here through the South Island of New Zealand. They're a fantastic feature to add to your landscape paintings. And here, I just wanted to do a bit of a study. The first thing I do is I establish the context, so this background landscape goes in pretty fast. You might notice, though, that everything in the background is pretty darkened, drab, and muted in terms of color. That's because I want the willow tree to really stand out. My shadows, I've toned right down. I've actually lifted their values so they're not as heavy and dark. And I've knocked some of the chroma out of my background colors so they sink way out into the distance. Now let's get started on the willow tree itself. I'm going to begin here with its shadow. And this shadow is being cast with that light angle coming just over our right shoulder. I have a general strategy in mind when I paint trees. I'm working from general to specific. I treat the tree as one big mass, a ball of leaves, rather than worrying about detailing individual leaves. And so as a ball, it's going to have a shadow on its underside corresponding to that light angle, of course. I feather this out and I break it up, following along with my drawing, lying underneath. Towards the top of this form, I get a bit lighter with my tones, and I have a bit more color coming through. I like to mix my greens, and for these demonstrations, I've really limited my palette. So I'm only using a handful of yellows and blues to make the majority of my greens, but of course, I've got some phthalo green there as well. Now I find that if I mute everything in that background, this green is really going to come to life. I want this to feel like it's a bright sun, and so providing some sense of contrast between the two really helps. I'm creating zones with my drawing when I first start my painting, and I'm just working from zone to zone, edge to edge, feathering slightly across areas as I go to ensure that I've got a nice painterly surface. For the most part, I painted this using bristle brushes. Here, this is an extra long Filbert number 4 made by Rosemary & Co. Check them out by clicking that link down below. Once I have my general shape, I adjust some of my shadows, bring an even more darker tone into these areas. A combination of burnt umber and ultramarine blue works great, but I also kick it with just a hint of phthalo green. Now, I start painting the mass of the tree before worrying about those trunks. I go ahead and knock those in with a number 2 synthetic round. Here, this brush is called a Shiraz. By rolling my brush as I draw it along, I can create some cleaner lines. This one's great for some sharp edges. Now, this tree here was painted from photographic reference. Here it is on the screen. And you'll notice that my tree was photographed through a high deer fence. That's all right, it didn't bother me at all. It's going to be a painting after all, and I don't have to paint that fence. But there's something else that I'm doing. I'm actually editing my photograph as I paint. I'm thinking about some of the changes I want to make to the tree to just create a bit more of an interesting shape. And I didn't see the need in painting each and every one of those trunks. Just a few will do. Now you might be wondering, why paint just a tree, just like this? Well, oftentimes, as a landscape painter, I'll do studies. If I'm going to paint a tree in a bigger landscape, I want to understand a little bit more about it. So it makes sense planning that road ahead and going here first before attempting to paint it in a bigger scene. This way I can work out my techniques, my color combinations, and learn a little something about these trees. So much of the way I paint trees nowadays is about strategy. I'm thinking about brushes that will give me a particular quality of mark. And here, I'm using an old trimmed fan brush. Now I hack away at these brushes with a pair of scissors, creating an irregular end to that brush. And as I travel along the surface of the tree, I'm twisting that handle continually, creating a series of irregular marks. I'm on the lookout for any mechanical, repetitious patterns that might look a little artificial to the viewer. By twisting that handle and changing the way the bristles impact the surface, and make sure that I'm on the right track, and I create that random assortment of marks. I'll use this brush for both darker marks and some lighter marks as well. There's something else that I'm doing here with my colors and my values. You'll notice that I've gone slightly darker than you'll see in the photograph with my tree, and that's for a reason. Towards the end of this process, I'll add even lighter leaves over the top with a synthetic pointed round, but I need something for those brighter leaves to contrast against, so keeping the base nice and dark really helps me. Before we go much further, I got something to tell you. Check this out. Do you want to take your painting even further and capture the essence of trees? Well, look no further, because in this course, I actually have some great techniques in store for you. Introducing my brand new tree painting course, which is available right now for pre-sale. In this course, we've got some beginner-friendly modules with our pine tree, willow, and gum tree demonstrations, leading on to some bigger projects like this autumn scene featuring sycamore either side of a country lane. But there's even more coming in this course. We've got larch trees here in this winter scene, as well as a mossy forest. But that's just part one. Part two is going to be released very, very soon. And the best part is, some of those modules are beginner friendly. So if you're just starting out on your painting journey, then this will have you covered. There are so many painting techniques waiting for you right now. All you gotta do is click that link down below, and I'm even gonna throw in the pine tree demonstration for nothing. Click that link, and I'll see you in the studio. I'm very excited to share that tree painting course with you. You can find it by clicking that top link in the description down below. I'll even pin a comment. Now I create a few darker leaves just hanging underneath our tree, and then bring some of these darker marks towards the top. I'll use the same fan brush here to break up the foreground, dragging through that wet paint and creating some grass-like texture. It's fantastic for creating softer, broken edges. I'm careful not to blend out all of that valuable brushwork though. Now here, I deepen some of the shadows in the tree itself. This will provide some much needed contrast when I come back and paint lighter branches that are cutting across these areas. Now, using my Shiraz pointed round once again, I draw in some of these darker branches. And you'll start to see that strategy coming into play here. So first we start off with the big overall shape, and then we start drawing those branches into that wet paint. Now I'm using Liquin Original to mix in with my oils. I'm sticking to that ratio of 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. This is ensuring I get a really good surface dry within about 24 hours. It means I can keep working with the same painting the very next day. And in case you're wondering, I did this painting over a couple of sittings, but all up, it took me about 6 hours. I'll also use a long rigger brush. This is an Ivory rigger, 0 in size. And this is fantastic for some of those characteristic spindly branches. Now, even though the branches and the trunks look black, they're pretty far from a pure black. It's a combination of burnt umber and ultramarine blue, but sometimes I'll use umber, magenta, and phthalo green. Now, the trick with branches is having plenty of tonal variation. Oftentimes, the beginner will reach for the black and the white, and they'll be painting branches with too high of a contrast. What I do is start with my dark branches first, and then gradually step up that value. Lead white really helps for those gradual transitions in value as we work our way up towards pure white. That said, I don't think we'll have any pure white highlights here in this tree, but the branches will get pretty bright, especially when we have some exposed branches that are being illuminated by sun filtering down through that canopy. Now, the overall aesthetic that I was going for here with this painting was something that was quite painterly, pretty loose. It's something that I could achieve within one sitting of a few hours. I like that look though, when you get up close to your painting and you can see that mess of brushwork, but when you step back, it looks reasonably realistic. Now I'm adding a few of those brighter branches, working their way through this tree. It really gives this tree so much character. I make sure that my lines are broken in nature and they change direction continually, but I'm following that reference material pretty closely to make sure I've captured the character of the willow. I have a little saying, and if you've watched my videos before, you've no doubt heard this, but save your total best for last. And that's this moment here, these bright little pinpoints of light. This is that brilliant sunshine glistening off individual leaves. I have to be careful here, though, not to create too much of an even pattern with my leaves. I'm applying this with a trimmed neef brush, very similar to an ivory pointed round. It's been reduced down to just a few bristles, and it gives me the precision and control that I need. One thing's for certain though, I have to continually reload this brush as I travel along. And these brighter marks stand out because that background that they're going over has been dulled down and muted. Its value is so much more diminished. That way I actually have something to contrast against. And there you have it. Here's a little study of a willow tree. Make sure you check out the full course, and this tutorial clocks in at 2.5 hours where I break down every technique, mix, and brushstroke. Click that link down below. Thanks so much for joining me here in the studio. I've really enjoyed your company, and I'll see you again in the next one.